Today we are going to be looking at chapter 1.4, Measure and Classify Angles. So we're going to define some terms first. First of all, we do have a symbol for an angle. Notice it's slightly different than your greater than or less than sign, and it's always pointing towards whatever angle we're going to have, or opening up towards whatever angle we have. And we'll go over some examples, but it consists of two different rays that have the same end point. So all angles do this consisting. This symbol is really important for us, so make sure you understand that that is our symbol and it's different from other things. So two different rays and then the same endpoint. And then every angle has some other features. So every angle has sides, the rays are the sides of the angle, and then the vertex, the endpoint of the angle we have as well. So just defining some terms for you. Now we're going to move this off to the side. We're going to do a little bit of doodling, just drawing an angle. So we'll go ahead and make an angle. We have, like I said, two different rays. So we're going to have a ray here and then a ray here. They have an endpoint. We're going to go ahead and label that endpoint. We'll label it A. And then I'm going to draw two other points on this as well. So this would be B, and this one up here, this is C. And then looking at what we have this right here. Point A is my vertex. And then we have our sides. So my sides are going to be here, which is basically ray AC, and then ray AB are my sides of this angle. And then we can go ahead and name this. So we can name an angle by using our angle symbol and then 3 points that make up that angle. And this is how we typically name an angle. So if I'm going to go ahead and name this angle, I have my angle symbol. And then I'm going to start on the top. So I'm going to say this is angle CAB. This angle could also be named angle BAC. And it might be important to note this should be a little bit more pronounced. I didn't do a very good job of that, but the angle should be more like that probably. And then we also have one other way we can name this, and if there's no other angles involved in this, we could name this off of the vertex. So we could say this is angle A. So let's go ahead and look at diagram number 1 and my example 1. Name 3 angles in this diagram number 1. So let's go ahead and name these. If you want to try to, pause the video, name them, and then come back. So we have angle, and I'm going to start on the top, WXY. I have another angle, YXZ. And then my last angle that I could create is angle WXZ. Now notice I can't name this like angle X because I have two different angles that make up the larger angle. So I wouldn't know which angle is actually referring to angle X. So that would not be an option this time. The next thing we need to look at is a protractor, and a protractor is actually this thing that I have on the bottom here in diagram number 2. But a protractor measures an approximate angle, and then its units are degrees, and then this little symbol that I have up here, that's my unit for degrees. Okay, so there's a couple things we need to know. First of all, like a word equation when we're doing this, we could say the measure you'll just have to listen and write. The measure of, and this is angle WXZ is, and then 32 degrees. So we could write it like that. Again, listen as opposed to maybe trying to write it would be better. And then the other way we can do this is we could say, instead of measure, we could write a lowercase m. So notice this lowercase. So that means measure. So the measure of angle WXZ equals 32 degrees. So either one of these ways can be used to measure this angle. Postulate 3, the protractor postulate. The measure of angle AOB is equal to the absolute value of the difference between the real numbers for ray OA and ray OB. And this is located on page 10. Again, you need to write this postulate in your notes or in your separate sheet of paper. So this postulate needs to be written. It's our third postulate. You should have all three written on your paper, so that way you can reference them quickly. So basically what this means is that if we have an angle and we have a protractor, and I don't have another example of a protractor on here, but if I have an angle and it just means that this angle that we're going to measure here, right here, this angle right here is going to be a positive number, and we can take that positive number and we can find it using a protractor. So if you look down here, this protractor that we have, you could form an angle and you're going to be able to measure an angle, and it's always going to be positive, is what it's actually looking at. We have 4 different ways to classify angles, so you'll want to write this off to the side. I don't have enough room. You might be able to write this in a straight line, or you can write one on top of the other like I'm going to do. But we have 4 different ways we can, or 4 different types of angles that we have. So the first one I want to look at is what we call an acute angle. And an acute angle is an angle that is basically it's greater than 0 degrees. Better make this, it's greater than, I said it right, didn't draw it right. So it's greater than 0 degrees, and the measure of angle A is then going to be less than 90 degrees. And then what this is going to look like is it's going to be an angle that looks something like this. Okay? And you don't need to include that part. I don't know why I did that. Okay? So there is our acute angle. Our next one is our right angle. So right angle. And our right angle, the measure of angle A, is going to be equal to 90 degrees. So an example of a right angle would be like this. And I'll go ahead and put the little box in here. The box signifies that it is, yes, 90 degrees. Our third angle is an obtuse angle. And an obtuse angle, so we went from 0 to 90, then we have 90. So this one is 90 degrees is less than the measure of angle A, and it is less than 180 degrees. And therefore our obtuse angle looks something like this, where the angle that we're looking at is between 90 and 180. And our last angle is a straight angle. And straight angle, the measure of angle A equals 180 degrees, and therefore it's basically a line. So those are our 4 types of angles.